All right, welcome to Altitude After Dark with your boys DMac and Coach Mike Sanford after a fascinating game. Fascinating game. Coach, it's good to see you. We'll get into the details. We'll hear from Bo Nix and Sean Payton and Quinn Miners and Riley Moss. We'll dig deep here in a second, but overall, your thoughts on today's loss to the Chargers.
A lot of the same fears that I had going into this game. I think we even talked a little bit about it on our Altitude After Dark Thursday night. Just the physical nature of a Jim Harbaugh-led team. I thought the offensive game plan from Greg Roman in particular was fantastic. He broke a tendency and had Justin Herbert throw the ball. What was it? 9 of his first 10 play calls were passes by Justin Herbert. And what I think that allowed Justin Herbert to do is A, to get in rhythm, but B, to be able to set up the run game. This is very, very different. A lot of people think that you got to run the football, in order to set up the pass. But oftentimes, if you have a heavy tendency like the Chargers did, tendencies are made to be broken. And so not only did Justin Herbert just start out phenomenally, he looked so good. He looked so composed. His arm talent was on full display. There's just such a difference right now between Justin Herbert, in terms of his feel and comfort in the pocket, and a guy like Bo Nix, who just looks like he's not settled at all in the pocket. Just an insurmountable game that you couldn't come back from. You gave yourself a chance, but, frankly, DMac, this game felt a whole hell of a lot like the game against the Steelers, where there's kind of a bonus little win one for the Gipper in the fourth quarter. We're making progress, and then, at the end of the day, reality sets in that you built yourself too big of a hole.
It was a one-score game, though, but you're discounting that. I got you. I see you.
What was the Steelers Broncos game?
Steelers Broncos game was a one-score game.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like it, right?
I know what you're saying. We'll dig into all of that. Because it goes to a fundamental principle of how things maybe should really be going offensively for the Broncos. We dig it all in, but we certainly thank our sponsors right off the top. Do you see yourself traveling, working part-time, or moving somewhere warmer when you retire? Beau Smith, your Colorado Edward Jones financial advisor, can make your retirement goals a reality. He can help you figure out where you are today and how to get where you expect to be. Working together, you can plan for what you want and be ready to take on anything unexpected along the way. Call him at 303-758-8500 or visit edwardjones.com/Beau-Smith to get started today. That number again, 303-758-8500. Edward Jones, member SIPC. You can't really get worse than the first half offensively, Mike, for the Broncos. And we'll get to your comments as well. But this game was similar to one of the most awful first halves in Broncos history. And that was when Peyton Manning was booed off the field in 2015 with injuries all over the place, down 20-0 with a 0 quarterback rating. That is a true story. Look it up. It's pretty funny. But it was 20-0 at halftime, and Bo Nix had a 0 quarterback rating with an interception. Peyton Manning actually had 4 interceptions in that first half, and he didn't return for the second half. He was hurt. He was injured. Bo's just a rookie. Let's just talk. Let's break it up. Your impressions of the first half of the Broncos.
I do think that a lot of people are lumping this into a two-half discussion. I don't think this is really a two-half discussion. I think it's dang near a three-quarter versus the final quarter. Because there just wasn't a lot going until the very tail end of the third quarter offensively. Bo Nix had a tremendous scramble, early on in the third quarter, but outside of that, it looked like much more of the same. I do think the defense for the Denver Broncos came out in the second half with a tremendous resolve, and it wasn't, the fourth quarter type, you're getting stall tactics from the Chargers. I thought it was a really good second half once they had swallowed the bitter pill that, their leader and their best player on the football team, PS2, wasn't going to be out there with the boys for the remainder of the football game. I think the first half, DMac, the thing that I want to explain as best I can, and I think the NFL is even more this way than college football, is you do everything in your power because game plan defenses for, people that scheme against you and scheme against your quarterback, scheme against maybe your best skill players. And in the case of the Denver Broncos, you don't have any elite skill players. That is a reality that we've been talking about since July and August. We knew that going into this year. So the Chargers had a game plan, and it was really a 3-phase game plan, including their offense and special teams, certainly their offense, of possessing the absolute living hell out of the football, being okay with 20-play drives that yield 3 points, keep the offense off the field. And then, they did a really good job against Bo Nix. And what you see, they call this zone coverage. This is not I'm talking about the first half, that what the Chargers did defensively. This is a very college-based 3-match coverage that a lot of people are using to take away run pass option, taking away, just your simple, easy completion play throws. And it's a hybrid coverage between man and zone. It plays like press coverage with a single high safety. You get an extra element in the box to stop the run game, and you do pass off crossers once they go past, a landmark on the field. Bo Nix, it forces a Bo Nix to make accurate throws. And the very first interception was an inaccurate throw. Anybody who thinks that Marvin Mims should have had that a 10 out of 10 times is crazy. You're running full speed on a crossing pattern, and that ball's slightly behind you. And it's you have to reach your hand up to even get a hand on the football while you're in full stride going against the grain. That's the type of coverage that forces an errant throw. And then there's a safety behind it to intercept the football. As the game progressed, people in the NFL in the second half, if you have a 2-3 score lead, you want to then play very top-down zone coverage and allow teams to kind of chip away at it. But ultimately, you're going to run out of time, just like the Broncos did. And so the second half was more, to me, and I think Sean Payton backed this up, even talking about the tempo, but the coverages weren't the same as they were in the first quarter, second quarter. A lot of the success, I do believe, was because that you're making a quarterback meticulously drive the football down the field, giving away some easy completions. So I just think that I have my concerns, man. I really do, DMac. And going into the Raiders game last week, I saw their coverages on film, and I'm like, Bo Nix is going to have a great day today. And I know it didn't start great, but it wasn't this bad. I was very concerned about this game. I'm very concerned.
We'll get to Sean Payton's comments about that in just a second. Let's just start at the very beginning of this game. How odd was this?
Wow.
I mean, it was so strange. And I haven't gone back and watched the TV copy. And sometimes, as you know, usually you're my left-hand man, just sitting to the left. I had no barrier today, by the way. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It was no barrier.
How's your left ear doing? Are you going to have to file a complaint with Title IX or say something?
Early in the game, first of all, I was like, hey, they lost the toss. They get the ball. I'm like pumped about that. But on the first throw of the game, it's an interception, which we have not seen for a month. So right away, okay. And then within a couple plays later, Surtain goes out and really knocks his head hard into the curve. Like, whoa, that was hard. And I didn't even catch Jim Harbaugh going to the medical tent. Like, I didn't even see that at all being there live. I'm just like on Twitter about him being gone. So I'll get to Riley Moss in a second. But just in the first, dude, that was a insane first 5 minutes, Mike. What was it like watching that on TV?
Yeah, they definitely would updated this, the situation about, Jim Harbaugh, certainly Pat Surtain. And then, man, the Chargers had a player. It felt like almost every play, there was another Charger checking into the 10 or going into the locker room. Quentin Johnson.
And this is a game where Bosa wasn't even playing for them.
And I fully anticipated him playing. I think he even practiced this week.
He did. He was limited going into shocked he didn't. Thought it was a big advantage at first.
Yeah.
Let's get to Surtain, though, and then we'll get into the Harbaugh situation, which was so bizarre. Riley Moss did admit that, hey, man, that was tough when that happened.
It's one of those things where, something like that happens. We got to be able to, come together and continue to play and have some fire. And You know, we didn't do that. You know, it was kind of a, you know, dark cloud over our heads, and we got to get out of that. It was just a little funk, and you know, I think that's something that we got to work on is being able to handle adversity and get through it.
Well, you know, as soon as I saw a replay, I knew he would be out for the game. And once you go in the concussion protocol, he'll be out on Thursday as well. So you better get used to playing without your best player.
Yeah, I think it might be a while. It was the way that his head snapped back on the turf, and it was the reaction that scared me. Not that he was knocked out cold, but that you could tell it was an immense amount of pain. Like, and you know, football players are used to, I'm just going to call it like it is. Football players are used to getting their bell rung. This looked different because he was writhing in pain, and you could tell when a guy's got some type of, I don't want to say head trauma, but that's frankly what it is. They immediately grab it, and it's almost like, what? I can't make this go away.
Let me ask you this. On TV, did they show him holding his head as he walked to the medical tent?
I just saw him holding his head as like the immediate on field, on the ground reaction.
Like
That's what I saw.
He was holding his head off the field, and then walking on the sideline to the 10. He kept on holding his head. And that to me was unusual.
Yeah.
You don't see that often.
Yeah. And the thing that's so strange about, you know, in football, I hate to say this, but we call it the C word. There's a lot of don't ask, don't tell with players that want to stay in the lineup. And I hated that culture. I actually had to get it out of players that I coached to say, hey, be honest about what's going on. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm calling plays for you as a player. And if you're not in the right frame of mind, you're actually putting my livelihood on the, at the expense of wanting to just tough it up and be out there for your teammates. And also, more importantly than anything involving my livelihood is your actual life, your brain, your noggin. The concussion deal, you just don't know how every player reacts differently. Yeah. I would say that there is a 0% chance that PS2 plays on Thursday against the Saints, and I would have my concerns. You know how ready he'd be in the following several games. So I mean, you just don't know. You don't know because everybody does react differently.
Here is Peyton about that offense that you talked about, and let's go through this.
Changed in the first half to the second half in terms of offense. It really picked up in that second half.
Well, look, let's be honest. It picked up when we started going up tempo, and when you're behind, then you're getting a different coverage look. So, we played with some tempo early in the first half. We had a false start. We played with tempo in the second quarter. We fumbled a football. Those were all, up-tempo plays. But I think, towards the fourth quarter, fortunately we were able to make some plays down the field. But I think the game was in a different position at that point. And but look, we fought to get back in it.
All right, what are your thoughts, Coach?
Exactly that. I mean, I thought this was the most interesting answer from Sean Payton because I think everybody just wants to look at the game and see the stats in the first half were terrible for Bo Nix, and the stats in the second half were great. And they want to immediately ask the coach, well, why didn't you do what you did in the second half, in the first half to start the game? And Sean Payton said as such, I did. There were elements of tempo rushing to the line of scrimmage. There have been elements throughout the course of the year mixed in to get Bo Nix into empty formations, which he sees things better. He is doing the things that is required, but he even said it. There's different coverage looks when a team carries a 23-point lead. When they have a 3-possession lead plus 2-point conversions to get back in the game, it's a horse of a different color. And if you think it's the exact same thing, you're not watching the film. And so I felt like in Sean Payton's answer, there was a little bit of a spirit of, hey man, like players not necessarily, but offensively, receivers not getting separation against tightly contested match type coverage. They're not getting enough separation, and then Bo Nix isn't making the throws. I think that there is some frustration through 6 games. I mean, this is a rookie quarterback. It's not in his 3rd game. He's going on to game number 7, just like Caleb Williams finished up his 6th game and threw for 4 touchdowns today. And just like Jaden Daniels, who played the best football team in the National Football today. Fell short, but played admirably. I mean, you have to think, is this a franchise quarterback that's developing at a rate that could get you to the point of restoring this franchise to the spot that it deserves to be in, and that's playing for Super Bowls? And I don't know the answer yet.
I hit the Channel 4 Viewhouse Triumvirate today because Romy Bean photobombed a pregame, just very randomly. She just kind of photobombed me and we chatted a little bit. And then Nate Jackson got to me on the postgame show, and now I'm talking to you. Really, the three of you together. Very handsome. The threesome together. Channel 4 is not pulling back on the looks department on Thursday night there at the good old Viewhouse. But it's interesting you say what you're saying, because Nate echoed some of the same sentiments to me after the game that, hey, man, it's the NFL, bro. It's not college. You got to learn how to play big boy football in this style. It's not going to be all up tempo. And Mike Kliss did ask Sean Payton about that. And I wouldn't say Sean got testy, but, it was real.
No huddle. I mean, is there any chance you can run something like that when it's 0-0?
Yeah. In fact, we have. All right. All good.
Yeah. I mean, I know what Mike's saying, though, too, because nothing else really seems to look good on Bo Nix right now.
Especially in the first half, right? Because
yes,
you could say that the Raiders game started similarly, but it really didn't. I mean, I didn't think Bo Nix played like you and I were sitting there when Mark Mosher was texting you a week ago and this is just not it. And I'm like, it's not great, but it's not awful. I think wasn't that my exact quote? I'm like, this isn't like, it's not inspiring football, but it's not, the sky is falling. We don't have our franchise quarterback. This week, the first half felt like that. But Bo Nix has done good things with the game in the balance. I mean, he did it on the road at Tampa. You can't forget about that. Part of his, his development, the line is going to be uneven. He's a different player than Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, although ironically, some of the things that he's having the most success with is more out of the Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams camp, which is Shedeur Sanders football. It's the second play. It's drifting around in the pocket. And that's what I even found a majority of his success in the fourth quarter throwing the football felt a little Shedeur-like. And I'm like, almost, Sean, do you just let him go that route? You didn't want Russ to do it. Do you just let him kind of just go in athlete mode and float around in the pocket and be okay with not playing completely on schedule? Because that's right now where he looks better. And I can tell with his feet right now, DMac is in that first half when he was trying to play on time.
Yeah.
His feet looked so like his feet were talking to his head. I'm not comfortable. I don't see it well. And I think his head was talking to his feet, and they both play in together. I just don't see it on a consistent basis right now. His comfort as an on play or on schedule playmaker within Sean Payton's exact structure yet.
Well, I think you're going to like this then, because I asked Sean and Bo similar types of things. First here with Sean.
Aside from injuries, Coach, is this an example of the best thing is to be able to play quickly right away? Do you look at that as a bit of an advantage? Just move on.
I think that's a great question. And I say that because I think what's most important for these players is, normally we talk about getting the taste out of your mouth, but it has to happen when they go to sleep tonight, and then tomorrow the focus is all on New Orleans, and it will be with me, and it has to be, or else like this can lead to that. And I just think as a coach, I just finished telling him that, hey, we got to put this one, and I would have told him the same thing had we won. We got to quickly put this one to bed. We can't forget it, and we've got to learn from it. But man, it's a short week, and we're on.
I got great question, Mike. I got great questions.
I think, are you on a 2-week streak of either great question or good question? I think you might be. I know that makes you feel good. In Sean Payton's world, that means that, hey, man, I appreciate you teed one up for me because it's Saints week now, baby. It is on to New Orleans, and I am going to be on my own in my mission of vendetta against the New Orleans Saints franchise. It's going to be great.
We'll get to that in a second, and to talk about a weird game. Maybe the weirdest game in the NFL I've ever seen was Tampa and New Orleans. We'll get to that in a second.
I didn't get a chance to watch it. I just saw the score.
Well, you saw New Orleans scored 27 points in one quarter, and that was it, right?
Right. And the stats offensively for New Orleans and Spencer Rattler don't match the score that they had either.
No, it's got to be statistically, and just we'll spend time with it because we're going to quickly turn the page to New Orleans as well on the radio on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. But it may have been the weird. I don't know if it was a scoregami either. It might have been a scoregami as well.
Could be.
Let's get back to Nick's, though. And he did speak about what does work for you. How do you get in the rhythm? And you as a quarterback savant maybe have some insight into what he said here.
Beau, you did get the offense into a good rhythm later on. What is the key for you to find that rhythm? What kind of clicks for you to get there?
Well, plays and first downs. When you continue to run plays over and over, you see, they're at the end, there's only so much that they can call because they're in, prevent or, 2-minute defense. And, we study that and we see it. So the more plays you go, you get to see these looks over and over and over. And then you start understanding what they want to be in. And at that moment, you're just trying to make completions and push the ball down the field at the same time. And we were able to get chunks as we went. And, Vele made a few explosive plays. Troy had a big catch. Cortland continues to, show off and do the stuff that makes him great. And I thought our backs made good plays, on checkdowns. And, our line protected well. We might have had one sack tonight. But with that rush with those players, we feel confident that that's, pretty good. So, moral of the story, we just got to protect the ball in the first half, and then we'll do better in the second. We can get in that rhythm faster.
Dangerous to me on this, Coach.
I love that question that you asked him from a football standpoint, because I think it's there is a difference when Bo Nix looks like he's in rhythm and when he's clearly not in rhythm.
But here's what I heard there, and this is where your feedback is invaluable. If you're going fast, you're going to get a limited amount of looks, which keeps things relatively simple. Wasn't that all he did at Oregon? Meaning, did he just have 61 games of going at light speed where it wasn't very complicated and you could only check into so many things defensively? And when you slow down, you go in the huddle and you're playing in the NFL, gets a little trickier, doesn't it? That's what I heard. What did you hear there?
No, I did. I think sometimes Oregon of the Chip Kelly 2000 and whatever, 7, 8, 9, all the way up until 2015, 16, that was truly light speed Oregon football. Ironically, Chip Kelly completely has gone away from light speed football when he went to the NFL and coached the 49ers and then came back to UCLA as the head coach. I actually think that he's almost lost his luster because he got away from what he did so well. But this is a new head coach. Dan Lanning wanted to build this thing for the Big Ten. But I think the simplicity of what they did play with the semblance of tempo. They played with a combination of a little bit of huddling, a little bit of of a lineup. But what they did do is they allowed Bo Nix to play an empty a lot. I'm talking an empty backfield. Either they would start with the running back in the backfield and motion him out to a position in an empty backfield, so it was just Bo Nix, or they brought somebody from empty into the backfield, ran the football. Bo Nix was able to get some really clean reads, man or zone, based off of who was running with the running back, either from empty back into the backfield. So I think the simplicity of that was really good. I asked him that question, DMac, after the Steelers game. Do you remember that? About empty. And I think those two things do go hand in hand. The playing with a good clip of pace. I think even today there were at least 2 delay of game worthy scenarios. One was a timeout and then one was a delay of game. And I see the frustration from both Bo Nix. Either the play got in a little bit late or the play was a little bit skewed in what he heard. And then I saw some frustration on the same play with Sean Payton on the sideline saying basically like, dude, you got to get this thing right. And the longer those play calls are and the more operation time it does take to get to the line of scrimmage, I completely agree with you, DMac, that is not the recipe right now for Bo Nix to find his rhythm, period.
And these are the growing pains. And that's just what it is, Mike. I don't know how else to put it. And likely this is why this is a 7-win season, Mike, not a 10-win season. Probably that's the reason. And we'll just readjust our expectations in my mind next year. I think what is meaningful, though, is it was 20-0, and it didn't finish, Mike, it didn't finish 41-13.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, it did finish in a 1-score game. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, are the Chargers really going to charge her up this much? I mean, this would have been like the
legendary.
And listen, man, that last onside kick, and they got a second shot at it. It went right through Tremon Smith's hands. Oh my God. And, the muggles in the media room said, oh my God, Tremon Smith should have literally dove like Superman along the boundary, which would be a weird move. But had he done that, the ball might have bounced off of him instead of going through the wickets. I don't know how you even practice that. It's not a bad concept, though. If you're going to hit a ball along the ground, if you know what kind of onside kick it's going to be. But again, who knows? I'm going to be relaxed on critical of onside kick recoveries. It takes a lot of shit luck to just get there in the first place. So
I do like the lay the ball on the side without any type of tee prop. That and then just do the helicopter. I'll say this is a guy who's been in onside recover situations as a coach.
Yeah.
I was watching that and putting myself in Jim Harbaugh's shoes, and that the spin on that football and seeing it twice, whatever heart arrhythmia situation Jim Harbaugh had in pregame, I would have been 10x in that moment. Cause that ball is not round. and when it's spinning that sideways like that, that sucker is pumped, not stuffed. You have no idea what the hell it's going to do. I thought it was great execution by Will. It was Will Lutz who kicked it, obviously, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Peyton after the game was a little pissed that he didn't kick it 10 yards in the first place.
Right.
But listen, man, I don't know. It's a nuanced play. It's difficult. Listen, man, I've said it a million times. Kickoffs, if you want to have some fucking ceremonial thing in the beginning, I mean, I'm rolling my eyes, okay. But a much more interesting play would have been 4th and 15 at your own 25-yard line. Football play, right? Rather than that dumb shit. So I'm going to keep advocating for it. You score, you get the ball, 4th and 15 at your own 25. Best of luck. Most of the time, teams will punt. Punt return in general is more exciting than a kickoff. And it really gives you a play at the end of the game where you probably 4th and 15. What do you think the convergence on that is? 15%, maybe less, something like that.
Yeah, I'd say, it just depends. Momentum does factor into that, right? 4th and 15 early on in a game is probably close to 6 or 7%.
Right.
But when you got a team, and you've just come back from a 20-point deficit,
be exciting, right?
Yeah, it certainly would be exciting. I think that.
I mean, it would be a much higher percentage than an onside kick, and would look a heck of a lot more like football.
Right.
It would just be better. It would just be better. It would succeed more often. You get some PIs. You'd have drama instead of the onside kick is just.
DMac, you know what it would force teams to do if that were the rule? It would force teams to not play how the Chargers played for a quarter and a half and play completely risk averse football because you'd have to continue to score knowing full well that if that's the onside kick mechanism, they're probably going to get it. Like a PI, you get the football. Like, what I'm saying? You possess the ball.
That's right.
A personal foul roughing the passer. Yeah, you just got the onside kick. It would change the way you almost you'd have to recalculate your numbers in terms of what it would take to put a team away by, in terms of margin, of where you're at, plus the time that remains on the clock. You'd have to account for that differently.
I do something else radical too. I would, the clock stops on a kneel down. You can kneel it down, clock stops, the end. No more kneel downs. You're going to have to run the ball.
Yeah, just at least put the football in a real football play.
Yep, you kneel down. You kneel down. If you have the lead, you kneel down. Clock stops.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's that. If you want to do it, I mean, you could still do it. You could milk like 6 seconds off the clock just by backing up and then kneeling down.
Yeah.
But still, no penalty. But stop the clock. You
Mm.
know, let's play more football more often. That's where I'm coming from. Meanwhile, in terms of just everybody and how they felt at halftime, I did think, you know, we're looking for some silver linings here. And here's Quinn Miners on what the feeling was when they came back for the second half.
Anything at the start of the second half or start of the fourth quarter to get you guys jump started, maybe?
It was all of us. It's a collective effort. It's not just on one person. That's how it is on offense. It takes a collective 11 people to execute plays. So it was all of us.
Let me tell you the mood, man. It was disappointing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't depressing. Okay? I've been in plenty of depressing Broncos locker rooms. The vibes in there afterwards was just like, man, you know, we let that one get away. We just came out flat. But like, man, to a man, and I do believe it, Coach, they're excited to be able to play on Thursday.
Yeah, that's a huge piece of it. I think that, you know, if they were playing on Sunday, DMac, and they had that same vibe that you described. I wasn't in the locker room post game. I wasn't at the game. I watched it on TV. But if they had that same vibe, I would say, are you having a second place parade? Because that's almost those types of vibes. I actually think this is a really good response mechanism to get onto. I mean, there's 2 days of prep. That's what you got, right? It's 2 days.
Yeah, but you're playing a really weird team on Thursday.
Strange.
And Sean Payton gets to go home or wherever, you know, whatever New Orleans is to him. I like this game. I hated this game at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I like that they have short rest. It sucks about Surtain, but he would have been out anyway. So that just blows. There's nothing really about, I don't think he would have been back by Sunday. I'm worried about him being back in a couple weeks. Yeah. So, all right, sucks. Offensive line wise, you're kind of beat up. But yeah. I just think, hey, Vele, all right. Troy Franklin, okay.
Yeah.
Estime's back, okay. You know what I'm saying? Let's
go.
Had
a different Estime today had a different gear. He took a toss play, 237-pound running back, whatever the hell he is, and he put his foot in the ground, made a little guy. I mean, he looked good. I thought that the juice that was needed for this team to move on from this game, I saw it as the youth movement. I think the drive that was Vele, Franklin, Estime, Bo Nix felt comfortable. I would not underestimate Bo Nix's comfort level with a bunch of guys that he came in with, that he did rookie mini camp with, that he's talking to on the side about the challenges of coming into this league. And frankly, is there a big drop off right now from what we saw today of Javonte Williams to Audric Estime? Is there?
I don't know. Listen, Javonte can't fumble, man. You can't do that, bro.
He also didn't look very good today, man. I love what he looked like in the second half of the Jets game. He was awesome last week against the Raiders. Yeah. He looked a step slow. He looked tentative. I almost think he's one of those guys. It's almost like he's got the mindset of a quarterback that he himself needs to build his confidence by way of what happens. You know, did I have a 5-6 yard gain in my first 2 or 3 carries? And it looks like he's almost confidence is the problem right now for Javonte Williams. And it almost front runner like when it's going well. And I don't think that's who he is. A front runner is a bit of a derogatory term, but he feels confident, he plays confident, and he looks awesome. And when it starts slowly, it's not good.
We'll get to see you in just a second. Don't let concerns about shifts in the market disrupt your long-term financial goals. Edward Jones financial advisor Beau Smith can help. He'll work with you on an investment strategy for long-term results. Edward Jones could give you the tools and knowledge for a steady approach to hitting your financial targets. So get started by giving Beau a call at 303-758-8500 or visit edwardjones.com/Beau-Smith. That's BEAU-Smith. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Calling your son horrible. We'll get to that in a second. But let's just start with the most obvious question. Was it pass interference on 4th down that essentially ended the game? Yes or no?
It's a judgment call. In the heat of the moment, what I've learned with these pass interference calls, oftentimes it has everything to do with where the referee was positioned, what they saw. And this is not a reviewable play, as everybody knows.
Right.
And so if you are, on the side of the play where you can't see the arm draped around, it's not going to get called. Was it an egregious? No doubt. Like, that is absolutely PI. Hell no, it was not.
Okay.
If you brought pass interference to instant replay decisions, it would have been pass interference. That's where I would go with that.
This one was painful. You fought back. You had the lead with 3 minutes to go. You had him where you needed him. Kansas State really wasn't throwing the ball all that effectively, Coach. No. You just had to stop the run, and they got you on a pass play. They countered that quickly after you fought so hard to come back, Coach. Walk me through it a little bit from a coaching perspective. Like, how really seriously, how does that happen?
Yeah, a lot of man coverage, DMac, and you live by the sword, die by the sword. That's exactly what it is. So Robert Livingston's done a tremendous job with this defense. I have no questions about it. There's been a ton of cover zero. The cover zero look that Kansas State might have had the worst answer in a critical down in the history of football on cover zero. And that's the interception that really turned this game around. When Kansas State had the lead and very easily could have bled the clock out, chose to throw the football. Avery Johnson throws it into a crazy crowd off his back foot. That was terrible coaching and execution from K-State to make this even a football game. But you do live by the sword and die by the sword. And, playing press man coverage with a single safety, quarterbacks can very easily look that safety off, just like Bo Nix did a week ago against the Raiders. And that's pitch and catch easy football. And it puts a lot of pressure on your corners. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it ends up being a pass interference. And sometimes, the bear gets you. And that's exactly what happened. You got by the bear, and that's playing too much cover one. I'm a proponent of cover one. I love man coverage because it's tough to face. You can't find any easy throws. They're mostly, lower percentage, but highly rewarding throws. And that's exactly what happened. And the reason K-State won this football game.
Okay. Gets tougher for CU. Does not get easier. And we'll see how it goes. I think the fans were ready to storm the field. I think you did a good job getting everybody liquored up that late at night, with these ridiculous late college starts. And then you look around and there's some sneaky things going on, man. Arizona State's 5-1 and they just beat Utah. I'm sorry, what? It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, nobody's talking about that one nationally, are they?
Why aren't they at this point? I mean, but
I don't know.
You put the games. Well, yeah, well, okay. And then there's other.
Saying, I'm saying is what that program has done under Kenny Dillingham is
crazy.
Every bit as impressive.
Right. A lot of transfers too, by the way. A lot of transfers. Same kind of concept.
Yep. I mean, Cam Scatterbo might be the most exciting football player to watch in the game. He's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I bet nobody even knows who he is.
The guys, I mean, I've watched a couple of these games. They're always playing at midnight, 1 a.m., right? And I'm sitting there.
I watch every game. Yes, I know.
Did I see that run correct? Oh my God, is that real? Like that's Cam Scatterbo guy?
Cam Scatterbo.
The Sacramento State transfer that had one FCS scholarship offer out of high school. Yeah. And that's the thing. Kenny Dillingham obviously doesn't move the needle. He did an unbelievable job in his post-game celebration of joining in the mosh pit.
I used to be one of these guys.
I was one of you guys here, man. Give me a beer. I'm shotgunning it, brother.
This is incredible,
but it was awesome. I just think I think CU, the injuries that they sustained in the course of the last week or so, it's concerning. Travis Hunter, I don't know.
Yeah.
Was there any talk? Were you there, DMac?
I was not. I was at the Avs game, brother, which is another.
I saw you post the press conference on your socials, so I thought you were there.
Yeah, I got a guy. I got a guy. I got a guy.
Yeah, I was like, damn, man, DMac really is omnipresent, brother. This guy's impressive, man. So I have concerns about Travis Hunter. Any word on what actually happened to him?
No, and the rules of that sort of thing are different in college. So, I mean, we might. I mean, I would suspect we'll know more Tuesday when Prime speaks, but they don't have. Well, you would know better than me. You're not compelled. It's not like the NFL, right? Like you have to put it out there.
It's the Big Ten Conference. I know the Big Ten Conference does have NFL-like mandating of injury reporting.
The Big Ten? Well, we're in the Big 12, bro. We're in the Wild West. Who knows what we got going on in the Big 12?
I know there's not any mandatory in the Big 12, but
it's not just, of course, it's not just Travis, right? It was like
it's Jimmy Horn.
It's like everybody. It was like
and
it was kind of insane.
Marion Miller, who looks like a freaking. I mean, he was a war daddy. He was it a Marion Miller that was like carted, like he left in a wheelchair.
Oh, I don't even know. Did he really?
In a wheelchair. I was like, this is not great news for the Buffs. And the more and more I watch CU, the more and more amazed I am with Shedeur Sanders as
he's
a player.
Incredible. Incredible.
I think the first year, I was kind of elitist towards what he had done at Jackson State. If I'm going to be transparent,
Sure.
I was like, of course, like anybody can go. Any guy that had a bunch of Division I offers can go to and play in that conference and throw for a gazillion yards.
Right.
Well, that son of a gun, man. I think he's better than a majority of what you see from a throwing the ball standpoint. He's better than a majority of what you see on Sundays right now. Now He's got to learn to take. He can't take the sacks that he's taken. I mean, you just aren't going to be able to do that on a 17-game season.
Well, it's a 2:00 game for CU on Fox, another national TV one. That's all they've done this year, which is mind blowing. And it's at Arizona. You got to win some road games. They already beat UCF on the road, and it's not unbeatable, but it is a stern test. And then after that, Cincinnati, we'll see. That's homecoming weekend.
They're playing good football this year. I think they're 4-2. They have the same record as CU, if I'm not mistaken.
Then you're at Texas Tech. Then you're home against Utah, which did just lose to Arizona State. Kansas should be I hope they should be a pushover. And then you wrap things up with Oklahoma State. It's going to be a test. This one stings, though. You had a chance to be nationally ranked. You had the excitement, you had the lead, boy, oh boy. And then Prime says Shiloh was horrible. And man, I mean, I get it. Shiloh's 24 going on 25. He makes a lot of NIL money, but boy, oh boy, there was part of me is like, first of all, just having your coach call you horrible stings, but having your dad call you horrible too. I mean, I get it. He was rusty, but hey man, if he was so bad, take him out of the game. Put somebody else in there, man. To me, that was just I almost think that's a little bit overcompensation on Prime's part to be extra critical of his own kids. That was weird to me, man. I guess I just don't like. And Prime is the one that was telling us, hey, don't go hard on these kids. They're college kids, all that sort of stuff. And you come out and call your own son horrible? I don't know, man. That just didn't sit with me great.
It didn't bother me at all, DMac, just because I know that they have a very unique relationship, and Deion Sanders also has a certain level of transparency that majority of college coaches do not have, and that's why I think he is liked by so many, and also disliked by so many others. It didn't rub me the wrong way, because I almost, just knowing even my interaction with Coach Prime when I was in that building for a week. Those guys are in his office at all times. They're around him. It's a family. I mean, they are a family, a real family. So I think that's just how they talk to each other, man. And they just let the world into how they talk to each other. And I don't know. Who am I to judge how to parent per se? And how, I mean, he is himself, and he's so different than any of us. And from the standpoint of how he goes about interacting with media, I respect the transparency. That's what I would say.
All right, fair enough. Okay. And we're watching the Nuggets. They're about to lose to Phoenix in a meaningless preseason game. They're down 118-111 with 14 seconds to go, so they're going to lose that. I was at the Avs game, brother. Avs don't have a goalie right now. That is scary territory. And Nathan McKinnon on a pretty awesome night where Jokic comes out to give him the Hart Trophy, bro. That was like, that was hair standing up on your arm during that ceremony. But the night ends with McKinnon, splintering his stick as he walks to the locker room. Let me tell you, man, that place emptied out quickly. And Bedsy at the end of it was giving us a RELAX. I mean, it's like, dude, this is game 2, and we're getting these kind of speeches. So plenty to talk about, top to bottom. You on tomorrow at 10?
I'm on tomorrow at 10 with Christopher A. Dempsey. There was a lot of depression inducing type of on-field performances from the Colorado college and pro football and hockey teams. How about the CSU Rams?
I was just going to
undefeated. Undefeated in Mountain West play.
And that was a banger of a game against San Jose State.
It was awesome. I watched the whole dang thing.
The fans should go.
The crowd was embarrassing. I knew that CU game was going to be almost Custer's last stand type of a moment in terms of the fan base. And they're like, yeah, we're not coming back. Well, shoot, you are in first place in the conference and you have a pretty clean slate ahead of you. They miss Boise. They don't have to play Boise State. They don't have to play UNLV. Like, they have a favorable schedule ahead of them. I could see the winner of Boise State UNLV could play CSU in the Mountain West Championship game.
I tell you what, man. So good for them.
And then big shout out, man. Big shout out to my guy, Ed Lamb, head coach of the University of Northern Colorado Bears. 27.5-point underdogs at Weber State. Hadn't won a football game since November 13th of 2022. And they got rolling, got a W. I love Ed Lamb. I love that program. I live pretty close by. Just really excited for those guys. They're a bunch of really good people, DMac.
Go Bears. Oh, I'm a UNC. What am I? A UNC athletic ex-dad.
Yes.
Something like that?
Yep.
Okay.
I sense a little bitterness. The ex-dad part might typically X in front of anything doesn't incite some type of negativity.
Listen, I spent enough time up to Greeley to say go Bears and mean it. Go Bears. Yep. And I mean it. All right, Coach, we'll talk to you at 10 a.m. Hey, everybody. Okay, it was rough. Kind of a rough, aside from CSU. CU, bummer. Broncos, bummer. Avs, bummer. Nuggets, whatever. It's sort of whatever. Not really worried about that too much. But we're here to talk about it on Altitude After Dark and on the radio on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. All right, Coach, we'll get after it tomorrow. I mean, good news or bad news, we're there for you. So we'll talk to you then.